From the Whiskey Tangent Studios in Marlton, New Jersey, this is Whiskey Tangent News.
Hey everybody, this is Ed from the Whiskey Tangent Podcast here with another episode of Whiskey News.
Woo!
And joining me as always is Scott.
Hey everybody.
And we have some exciting news stories for you this month. 6 news stories, in fact. 2 of them will be industry news. 2 will be science and technology. And 2 will just be some feel-good whiskey news stories.
Yeah, we need some feel-good stories.
We do.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have 10 new whiskeys that you can buy this month. And then we're going to tell you what's coming up for the rest of April and all of May for the podcast.
All right.
Scott?
Yes, so it is April 2025, and here's all the news that's fit to drink. In industry news, our first story is from CNN. Breaking news. Hey everyone, Scott here in the editing booth, and the news has been coming in about the flooding in Kentucky, which happened after we recorded the news, but before we were set to release it. Usually we just let it ride until our next news podcast. However, the news is so big, it seems irresponsible not to mention it at all. So Ed and I decided that I should drop in a breaking news segment, so here it is. From AP News, and pretty much everybody, Kentucky flooding forces Buffalo Trace to close. The historic Buffalo Trace distillery has temporarily closed after deadly flooding ravaging Kentucky swept into its facilities, forcing the popular bourbon company to turn away the public and staff, saying in a statement that it would remain closed through April 10th, but warned that that date could change. Due to the unprecedented and ongoing rain and flooding, they said, we are not able to advise on the impact to our total distillery footprint. We will assess those realities in the coming days as the facilities become safe to navigate and will make necessary adjustments to our operations as required. Days of unrelenting torrential rain across the U.S. South and Midwest have caused catastrophic flooding and raised fears that the damage could linger for days as rivers swell. Frankfort, where Buffalo Trace is located, has been subject to many floods in the past as the Kentucky River curves throughout the city and is currently cresting at the nearly 50-year-old record of 48.5 feet that was set on December 10th, 1978. It is not yet known how much Buffalo Trace's inventory, ranging from barrels, bottles, and other items, may have been damaged or what the extent of that damage may be. So obviously our hearts go out to those affected by the flooding, not just Buffalo Trace, but everybody dealing with the aftermath of the severe weather. We'll be sure to provide an update on our next month's news. Stay safe, everybody. Now back to our regularly scheduled programming. Our first story is from CNN. The European Union delays retaliatory spirits tariffs, but not for long.
All right.
After the United States imposed a 25% tariff on steel and aluminum imports in March, the European Union is delaying their 50% retaliatory tariffs that it had previously announced, including those on boats, motorcycles, whiskey, beer, poultry, beef, and produce such as soybeans, tomatoes, and raspberries. The countermeasures, which cover an estimated $28 billion worth of American exports, were set to take effect starting April 1st and follow a phased approach. Instead, they will all take effect at once on April 13th, pending negotiations.
Well, there goes my raspberry futures.
Said U.S. Distilled Spirits Council President and CEO Chris Swanger, this is a very positive development and gives U.S. distillers a glimmer of hope that a devastating 50% tariff on American whiskey can be averted. However, those hopes are likely in vain because Trump, angered by the EU's countermeasures, threatened to impose a 200% tariff on European wine and spirits and announced a slew of additional tariffs on goods coming to the U.S. from all over the globe, including lumber, automobiles, and copper. And it remains to be seen whether any negotiations to avoid any tariffs will actually take place.
What I don't understand, and I'm not even trying to be political here, I didn't understand a president can just do whatever he wanted. Like, I didn't know you could just level tariffs against other countries all by yourself. Like, whatever you wake up in the morning and just want to do a tariff. I thought it had to be like some type of a process before you came up with tariffs. Like, yeah. I mean, if I'm wrong, maybe it's just because other presidents were an abuse of other powers. I don't know.
Also, a Congress that bends over and takes it. Congress is supposed to be the check on those powers.
We're not supposed to have one person just doing whatever they want. And I'm I don't know what you were, a traditionalist. Like, I respect the checks and balances of the government.
Of course.
And I'm just concerned with one person who's not always in the greatest mood, just based on his tweets alone. You know what I mean? Just being able to wake up in the morning and just put tariffs on bacon, you know what I mean? Or whatever, or scotch, like just randomly, like without going through some type of a process. Well, it'll protect our steel industry, or like a give and take, not just this, like when you're in the supermarket line and you buy the Pecan Snickers. because it's right there like an impulse buy. And then you go home and it's like, oh, I shouldn't have bought, the almond Snickers even is better than this, so you make a dumb impulse buy. I don't think tariffs should go like that. I think there should be some type of a process where you got to kind of check in with somebody. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy.
I mean, executive orders are subject to judicial review, and most of his have been sued in court.
Okay.
But they're working their way through the courts, and,
Right.
everyone just kind of just goes along with it.
Right.
Even though it's nonsensical, it seems random.
Well, it's random, yeah. The whole key of the Whiskey Tangent podcast has been, we're here to escape the nonsense of our
Exactly.
day. But now the nonsense of our day is fucking with our whiskey.
It's intruding into our vocation.
We can't but notice that Canada is pulling American whiskey off the shelves. So does that mean that our American bourbons are going to drop in price because there's a glut of it?
Yeah.
I remember, Scott, if you remember from your college economics, macro.
Correct.
When supply is greater than demand,
Yeah.
and if Canada's demand has just vanished,
Right.
then that means there's a lot of American whiskey. The price should go down.
Right. There's a lot of American whiskey that they have produced because they caught up to our demand.
Yes.
And then they had stuff that they're going to release to the international market, but now they can't because they're going to be taxed on it and it's not going to sell.
Right.
Or like Canada, they don't want it.
Canada's literally pulling it off to be belligerent. It's like random Canadian belligerence on American whiskey. Like the tariff hasn't even hit yet, but they're already like, fuck your whiskey. So we have to acknowledge this on the podcast because this is what we do, whiskey.
Fuck your whiskey, eh?
Right. So politics has infused itself into our podcast.
Right. I didn't even want to do another, because we did one on the last news episode. I didn't want to do another one, but this was sort of like a optimistic kind of thing. Like,
Hopefully.
okay, they're delaying it for a bit, but the belligerence on our side is so extra.
Well, here's what's
they're
funny.
never going to back down.
He's like, we're doing a tariff. And then he says, you know what? We're going to delay the tariff. But Canada's like, fuck you. We don't care if you delay it. We're pulling all your shit off our shelves.
Yeah.
I feel like he didn't expect people to react to his actions.
Yeah.
And he seems to be surprised when anybody else reacts to what he says he's doing or what he is doing. And anybody who's a Republican out there, I feel, my dad was a Reagan Republican. I'm looking for any sanity. If you think this is sanity and you don't listen to me, it's okay, dude. I get it. But you got to open your eyes and look around. This is fucking madness right now. Go ahead, Scott. Sorry. I'll go back to drinking my whiskey. By the way, we're finishing the bottle of Speakeasy we got from Kentucky.
That's right.
Yep.
Finishing it up. This is not the portion that Ed had. This was all mine.
Right.
Because I bought it.
Yep. I never got any of it.
Well, you're having some right now.
Regretting the fact that he let me buy a bottle, which was my order to him, though. I said, don't let me just buy everything. And he said, don't buy something now. Wait till later. I'll buy this so we can share it. But share it was a very innocuous term for him.
We share all whiskey. It doesn't matter.
We do. Sometimes you get an ounce. Sometimes you get a half bottle. Sometimes I forget my bottle and leave it here. It happens.
Right.
But Scott does all the editing, so it's hard to argue with.
Yeah. Sometimes you get a handy. Sometimes you get a full-on blowjob.
Exactly. Well, not from Scott or me, but in life.
Right. In life. We're platonic.
Right. We're platonic podcast partners.
That's right.
And this goes to all our friends at home. Like, well, you guys spend a lot of time together. Like, fuck you. Your mom spends a lot of time with me.
Oh, Mama. Okay. Can we get the next story?
Sure.
Okay. All right.
Sure.
The next story from...
I just basically insinuated that I fuck all our friends' moms. I think it's a perfect segue into what we're going to do next. I'm just kidding. Half of them are dead.
That's true. We're old. And they're old. Mm-hmm. Yeah. From Business Wire. Our second story, finally. WhistlePig CEO steps down.
Wait, the second one?
Yeah.
Because I just saw the Bacta guy, right?
Bacta.
Yeah, I just saw him in an interview
Sarge
talking
Bacta.
about his new company.
Yeah. Bacta.
I mean, it was like an infomercial, really, because he's like, do you ever want to drink an 80-year-old?
Yeah. Remember what Doug said? He met him, and he's like, that guy's an asshole.
Yeah. I mean, he's an egomaniac, but I drank Bacta last week. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing stuff. Okay, so WhistlePig Whiskey has announced that CEO Jeff Kozak is stepping down after 10 years of leadership to pursue other opportunities. Industry veteran and WhistlePig board member Marty Burkle will assume the role of interim CEO while the board conducts an external search for Kozak's successor. Said Kozak, it has been a privilege of a lifetime to help build WhistlePig from a small craft rye company into an internationally acclaimed whiskey brand that is known for and continues to push the boundaries of quality, innovation, and independence. Said co-founder and chairman Wilco Faison. The board of directors is grateful for Jeff's contributions over the past 10 years, which helped grow our company to over $100 billion in sales.
100 million?
100 million. And as WhistlePig enters in the next growth chapter, we are excited to continue the goal of becoming the American whiskey of choice for consumers around the world.
I mean, 100 million is impressive when you realize where they started from.
Yeah.
So he was CEO over the Bacta fiasco, right? Like,
yeah, right. Because 10 years.
Yeah, Bacta wasn't out.
No, that was why we were on the podcast.
Right. So this guy was probably running it with Bacta. And what's his name again?
Jeff Kozak.
Hey, Jeff, good job. And you made some amazing whiskey. I just saw last night, I was in a bar and they had the WhistlePig Bourbon piggyback. Which was not the original one. The original one was rye. So that's just one little blip up that I've seen that they've done. We went to a tasting, didn't we?
Yeah, at the lounge, we did all their...
Boss Hogs. What was the one we did at Benesh? That wasn't... Remember they had like the race car one and shit?
Oh, they did have...
Yeah, it was a WhistlePig, but not Boss Hog. Remember?
Right,
yes.
It was their other expressions, for sure.
We go to so much whiskey tasting. See how it is?
So many whiskeys.
Forget that we drank WhistlePig
so little
for a whole
time.
night. I've never had a WhistlePig where I spit it out. Though some of their like farm-raised ones, whatever... I can do without.
Yeah, some are a little strange and some are a little overpriced.
Right.
But overall, they do good stuff.
The 10-year might be one of the best bangs for the buck out there at around $75, $80.
And the piggyback is great. Like their lower expressions are
40,
good.
But see, piggyback was $44, $45. I noticed it's creeping up over 50 now.
It's creeping up, yeah.
We saw Sazerac in the store today, Scott, for how much?
It's a 1.75 liter bottle for $50.
Right. And I'm sorry, if I'm supposed to make cocktails out of it and it's 100 proof, Sazerac is amazing.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so the next topic we have is science and technology. We have two stories. The first story is from New Scientist. AI beats humans at distinguishing between Scotch and bourbon.
Yeah, we had something similar to this.
Something similar.
Like about 6 months ago.
Yeah, but this is a little bit more advanced.
As I would expect it would be.
Well, yeah.
How fast AI is growing.
Seriously.
I can't wait to replace Gabe with just AI. Like,
well, we already had
hologram Gabe was just
that was a step.
Yeah, it was a step.
Yeah.
We need to
AI Gabe is next.
AI Gabe is next, and we don't need to bring him in anymore.
Gabe, but you spell it with an I in it.
Right.
G-A-I-B-E.
Right. Pine Barrens are on fire right now. They're rioting.
Yeah, with their one battery. Researcher Dr. Andreas Grosskamp and his colleagues at the Fraunhofer Institute for Process Engineering and Packaging.
Oh, I like Fraunhofer. It's like that ginger powdered cookie that comes out around Christmas.
No, that's Pfeffernuss.
Okay, sorry.
I guess. Engineering and Packaging IVV in Germany created an AI-powered molecular odor prediction algorithm by training it on written descriptions of different whiskeys. Then, in a study involving 9 types of Scotch and 7 types of bourbon, they tasked the algorithm with telling the spirits apart based on keyword descriptions of their flavors, such as flowery, fruity, woody, or smoky. Using these alone, AI was able to determine which country a spirit came from 94% of the time.
Wow.
When the researchers fed the AI a reference set of 390 molecules commonly found in whiskeys, along with chromatography mass spectrometry data showing which molecules were present in the samples, its accuracy increased to a perfect 100%.
Wow. Science, bro.
Yeah. Finally, to determine if their algorithm could predict whiskeys better than human experts, an additional study was conducted using just the top 5 odor keywords based on the chemical contents of a whiskey. AI was 72% accurate, whereas humans were only 57% accurate. Grosskamp says such AI tools could be used for quality control in distilleries to help develop new whiskeys and to detect fraudulent ones. However, they could also be used for anything that has a distinctive odor, such as other drinks, foods, and man-made chemicals. And also Gabe.
Well, and AI Scott gets cherry and apple.
Cherry, apple, and tobacco.
That's right.
Yeah.
Is there another one for science?
There is.
All right, let's go.
Did you get my Gabe shade?
Of course. What Gabe doesn't realize is any mentions when he's not here is just a form
It's all love.
of love.
It's all love. We love
We
you, Gabe.
wish he was here.
The second story in Science and Technology from Men's Journal is the neck pour just a myth?
It's with Scott. I don't know what you're referencing.
You don't know what a neck pour is.
I've heard it, but I can't remember now.
Okay, so here we go. Whether you're checking a bottle rating on Distiller.com or scrolling Reddit's bourbon reviews, you might see some version of the phrase, but it was the neck pour, a qualifier that tends to accompany descriptions of more expensive bottles that leave their new owners less than whelmed. Perhaps it's happened to you too. You open a new premium whiskey you got for your birthday, only to find that the first few ounces out of the bottle were at best surprisingly simple or at worst off-puttingly harsh. However, upon returning to it later, later, perhaps after sampling a few intervening bottles, you ended up enjoying it a lot more. So what changed? Was it your whiskey or your palate? Wayne Carfarella, the creator behind the popular TikTok channel Drink with Wayne, says it's definitely not your whiskey. The neck pour is one of whiskey's biggest myths. I open a new bottle of whiskey every week, and if it were an issue, I'd be tasting it. Jim Meehan, author of Meehan's Bartender Manual, agrees. I'd chalk the neck pour idea up as a more sentimental and superstitious observation. Whiskey spends years in a wood barrel, which is an environment ripe for oxidation and leaves little potential for oxygen-related changes by the time we pluck a bottle from the shelf and pop it open. However, belief in the neck pour does draw in a real phenomenon, said Dr. Thomas Collins, a Washington State University professor who studies the chemistry of wine and spirits. Opening a bottle does introduce oxygen, but you'll taste far bigger differences by drinking it neat with water or on ice, even if you'd left a bottle open for a month. Additionally, the neck pour myth assumes that master distillers would purposely send out bottles with a flawed first sip. Says Pat Heiss, co-founder and chief scientific officer of Wilderness Trail Distillery, there is no technical, chemical, or other related answer that I've heard that explains the neck pour. My thoughts from the standpoint of a chemist, whiskey enthusiast, and expert are that the first pour is more about mood, premeditated expectations, and what the taster had to eat recently.
Yeah, I agree with all that.
And there's still another phenomenon at play, albeit in reverse, which is what happens when you purposely allow a whiskey to breathe. Bill Thomas, owner of the revered Washington, D.C. Whiskey Temple Jack Rose Dining Saloon, says on certain drams, we do tell people to order a second dram to start while the first one opens up. And we called one of our Bulleit single barrel selections Time Out because we wanted it to sit for at least 20 minutes. However, if you still believe in the neck pour, there's an incredibly easy remedy. Before opening your new bottle, just turn it upside down and allow the top and the bottom of the spirit to mix.
Right. I mean, so whiskey is stored vertically. I remember one time I laid my bottles down on a couple of shelves to take a picture, and I posted it on the internet.
Everyone, that was your first mistake.
Oh my God. Everybody was like, I hope you're not storing them like that all the time. It'll erode the cork and ruin. Everyone just needs to calm the fuck down.
I just turned to take a picture.
Just was trying to take a picture. You know what I mean? Scott bought me a wine fridge that I use for my Irish whiskey because I like my whiskey cold, but I don't want to put ice in an 80 proof whiskey because it waters it down. So I put them in there with like some type of a prop so that they don't touch the cork, but they're still laying like flat. You know what I mean? Not vertically.
Horizontally.
Right. The other one.
The other one.
And but not so that they're laying completely flat, you know, because I do appreciate the fact that you could erode the cork and all that. But one thing I learned when I went to Kentucky is, and this was at the Angel Envy tasting, the guy took a little sip of the whiskey and swished it all in his mouth like he would mouthwash. And then he swallowed it. And then he took another sip, which would be the tasting. And he said by doing that, he eliminated all the alternate flavors that were in there from what he had to eat an hour ago, and if he had any whiskeys a half hour ago, or if he had a piece of gum, whatever.
It happened in 4 or 5 different places.
Yeah, we saw it other places, but that was the first place I actually, because I'd be dead honest, I'd like to act like I never did that before.
No.
I just took a sip.
No.
By doing that, it really has helped me hone in on the flavors of a particular bottle, because we do taste a lot of whiskeys together in a night, and they definitely infiltrate. We talk about that all the time. Like in the Whiskey Madness, going A to B or B to A, we're like, well, if I go from B to A, A tastes different than if I go A to B.
And we also talk about the first whiskey you have of the night can taste extra harsh because it's the first one. But if you gargle it, like you were just saying, that's your first tasting.
Once again, not a gulp. It's like a little sip. No. Like you take a little bit in, you swish it around your mouth, you swallow it.
And then getting your palate used to it.
You don't even try to taste it off that little mouthwash.
And honestly, I think that's what's at play in a lot of people thinking it's the neck pour.
Yes.
Because they're opening a new bottle and it's the first thing that they've tasted.
Right. And they have 3 cashews in their mouth, and they have
whatever they had for dinner,
piece of apple and a leftover piece of steak that they ate a half hour.
Yeah.
And so they're like, oh, this tastes kind of off-putting. Well,
right. So you could turn it upside down, but you could also swish it around your mouth.
Right.
So there you go. We solved it. The neck pour is a myth.
The neck pour is a myth.
We've debunked. All right. So the next category that we have are feel-good stories. We have 2.
Oh, I need 2 of them. Yeah.
Yeah. So from Yahoo News, new Fireball contest promises whiskey for life. But there's a hilarious catch.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like, first of all, you have to have Fireball. That's the first catch.
Oh, listen to this. Fireball Whiskey is cranking up the heat with a contest offering a lifetime supply of the cinnamon-flavored spirit. But crucially, only for folks at least 90 years old who are ready to light up their final years.
I love that.
They're about to die, and they're giving them whiskey for life. That's hilarious. That's right. For the nonagenarian legends who've spent Nearly a century making memories, surviving life's curveballs, and keeping the party rolling, Fireball is offering the most epic senior discount of all, but limited to those born on or before 1935, said Danny Suich, global brand director of Fireball. We've seen them all over social media, and we can confirm one undeniable truth. Senior citizens love Fireball. And who are we to argue with their years of wisdom? After all, they were born right as Prohibition was ending and have been breaking barriers and bringing the heat ever since. Unfortunately, by the time this airs, the deadline for entry into the contest will have passed, but 15 lucky winners will be chosen sometime this month.
So Scott has a chance to drink whiskey in his 90s. I don't think me, or I'm going to take Gabe out with me.
Oh, no.
I don't think Gabe's going to be 90. Gabe doesn't want to be 90. And neither do I. I'm 57, and I'm quite happy dying at 87.
We're going to have a whiskey old folks home. We're all going to go.
Up in Vermont, we saw it.
Yeah. We're going to buy a big bed and breakfast. We're all going to live there.
Yeah.
Drinking whiskey until we die.
Right. But it shouldn't be in Florida instead of Vermont.
No. I hate the heat. I like cold.
No, I'm with you.
I like cold. Give me a blanket and a whiskey.
All right.
The humidity? You want that?
No,
you don't want that.
You know I don't. I'm hot now, and it's like 60 in New Jersey.
Actually, what is it? It's a really warm day. It's 69 right now. Ooh.
Hello, Sue.
All right, and the second feel-good story, the last story that we have before we get the new whiskeys, from Men's Journal, Jackpot of Prohibition whiskey found on the Atlantic City beach.
Yeah, I read about this myself.
Oh, you saw this?
Last week.
Okay.
Like 2 weeks ago.
All right, shout out to our friend Pam for alerting me to the story a few weeks ago. Whiskey was the last thing on his mind when Coast Guard rescue swimmer Austin Contagiacomo took a mid-February stroll along the beach with his dog Coda just south of Atlantic City, New Jersey. The two played fetch and enjoyed the frigid surf before Coda suddenly took off. Contagiacomo raced after, but when he finally caught up, he discovered something unusual. 11 full bottles of whiskey half buried in the sand.
Yes, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, curious, he gathered them up and brought them home. I know nothing about whiskey, he said, so all I was doing was potentially stopping kids from drinking alcohol that someone had left there. At a minimum, I was cleaning up the beach. But after he shared photos of a strange find with a friend and then later on Reddit, he discovered that this was indeed a very old and very rare whiskey called Lincoln Inn, which was produced at a distillery in Montreal in the 1930s. It was likely produced at LaSalle Distillery, formerly called the Greenbrier Distillery, which Seagram's founder Sam Bronfman had dismantled and shipped to Montreal from Louisville, Kentucky during Prohibition. Wow. Additionally, because Bronfman had used an all-rye recipe at the time, Lincoln Inn could very well be a rye whiskey. Furthermore, because the word whiskey is spelled with an E, the bottles were probably destined for the U.S. market. Of course, the story of exactly how these bottles landed on the Jersey Shore during a cold winter day is unclear, but for Contagiacomo, the mystery is part of the appeal. Perhaps they were dumped in the ocean by bootleggers making their way down from Canada when they ran into the feds on the high seas. And the fact that they washed up close to Atlantic City brings to mind Nucky Thompson from the HBO series Boardwalk Empire,
exactly.
A character based on real-life political boss and bootlegger Enoch L. Johnson.
Yeah, the opening scene of the show is whiskey bottles washing up on the beach at his feet.
Oh, cool.
That's what they referenced.
But whatever the story, Contagiacomo is uninterested in cashing in on his find. In fact, he's already given away most of the bottles to his friends, saving one for himself and his father.
Asshole.
In fact, he says, as of right now, nobody's been brave to even open them. I think everyone just likes the story, the history, and the journey that the whiskey must have gone on. It'd be almost tragic to empty them and see the story end.
Yeah, you know what? You're like that asshole Rose from Titanic. Rose from Titanic is the real...
She's the villain.
All right, so basically she has a $20 million necklace, right, that she keeps her whole life. Her poor husband who worked and took care of her whole life, she doesn't say, hey, I got a $20 million necklace here, right? She keeps it, and then she drops it at the fucking wreck. And then when she dies, she doesn't think about her husband. She goes to this guy that she, like, fucked for, like, 3 days and wouldn't even slide over the door so he could survive. Like, fuck Rose from Titanic. All right? That's a Titanic rant. Rose is a real villain.
I don't disagree. How about that? I like it.
Oh my God, a rare agreeance of me and Scott.
That's right.
If you watch the tournament this year, you realize that's the rarest that you'll see.
Yeah, Gabe doesn't have to break this tie.
Rose is a real villain from Titanic.
That's right.
Prove me wrong.
All right, so next we have new whiskeys that you can buy this month. We got 10 of them.
That's good. Let's go.
All right. So the first one is Blood Oath Pact 11.
You know what? I missed the Blood Oath.
I know. We haven't talked about them for a while.
And Scott will tell you why in a minute when he tells you how much this one costs.
Exactly.
I was actually in a bar last night and somebody had ordered the Blood Oath. I got to hear the guy talking like, yeah, my buddy said you got to try this. He's like all psycho about it. So I'm going to try it tonight. I'm like, all right.
It'll cost you.
You'll enjoy it. It's not going to be terrible, but, it's more than you want to spend. So go ahead, Scott. Talk about it.
All right. So for this release, Lux Row Master Distiller and Blender John Rempe blended 3 bourbons, a 14-year high rye, a 7-year high rye, and a 10-year weeded, all finished in barrels that previously held añejo tequila, which itself had been aged in ex-bourbon barrels. So full circle.
Amazing.
It's a 98.6 proof.
As they all are.
As they all are. It's at least 7 years aged. The mash is not disclosed. Vanilla, black pepper, spicy oak, citrus, black cherry, dark chocolate. The MSRP is $130.
Right. Once again, not crazy.
Just enough to be annoying.
Right. And could we buy that? Yes. But when they came out, they were 100.
Yeah. Couldn't it be 110?
And then they were 109. And then they were 118. Yeah. And so if you started the journey with them, you're like, you know what? 130 for the same basic shit we were drinking at 100. So you're like, well, what's the problem? Well, it's 30% more. That's the problem. But when you buy as much whiskey as we do,
right,
we can't keep chasing the Blood Oath every single year at 130.
No.
If you look at the Whiskey Madness that we just had, the Kinsey Wheat that made it to the finals was a $45 bottle. So there's so many bottles out there. And I guess it's our education that keeps us from buying the Blood Oath.
Yeah.
I know what's worth 130, and the Blood Oath is just not worth 130. It's not a terrible price, but it just priced them out of us. Right, Scott? Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. We have a sixth sense now just by listening to the description of what each whiskey is, what the age is, what the proof is, and what the tasting notes are. And we can tell when something is overpriced. And in our estimation, Blood Oath is overpriced.
And we love Lux Row. So here's the thing. I can get a bottle of Old Ezra Rye and Bourbon for almost the same price that I get the Blood Oath.
We drink a lot at Lux Row.
We got drunk at Lux Row.
And there are whiskeys on this list that haven't really raised their prices, but Blood Oath has. Right. And it kind of does make you wonder, why? With
the glut of whiskey that's coming, have they priced themselves out? And will we see the next Blood Oath come down? I'm just wondering.
That's right.
Rant over. Right. Unless you're skateboarding.
Well, let's not go there. All right, so the next one we have on the list is Blue Note Special Reserve.
Ooh.
We received this 2 years ago from them.
Yes.
This is an update. So recent years have seen blenders get creative, coming up with complex recipes that include multiple components. But this new release from Memphis, Tennessee-based BR Distilling Company really takes the cake. The 2025 batch of Blue Note Special Reserve is blended from 10 different bourbons from Kentucky and Tennessee. Prior to blending, each was finished in one of 9 different casks, including cognac, Madeira, sherry, port, triple sec, apricot brandy, Amontillado, vanilla cognac, and Vino de Naranja. So it's 116.3 proof.
Wow, 116. Okay, go ahead.
It's aged between 4 and 19 years. There are 3 different mash bills. It's an 84, 8, and 8, a 70, 21, and 9, and a 70, 22, and 8. Tasting notes are black cherry, apricot, grape, plum, vanilla, maple, and sweet oak, 225.
All right, so 225, me and Scott would have to have a discussion because this is the company that does a lot of $50 bottles.
And remember, we tasted this because they sent us a sample.
But it wasn't a $200 one.
It was $225. It was the special reserve back then.
Okay.
So they have not raised their price on this.
Okay,
but
it was 3 years ago.
It was less complex. It was 7 different finishes.
Right. Okay.
And it was one of the most extraordinary things we'd ever tasted on the podcast.
Absolutely. So
I would pay $225.
I would, which would be the most expensive bottle we've ever purchased.
Yes.
We've had more expensive bottles than the podcast.
Because most Blue Note stuff is like $45, $50.
Yes.
Or less.
So if they're charging $225, that means
there's a reason for it.
They're not gougers. They're not in love with themselves.
And again, if you trust us, if you trust our sixth sense that I just talked about,
yes.
And we say that this is okay,
do it.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a treat bottle for yourself, go for this. Yeah. The most expensive bottle we bought for the podcast was the Old Carter.
Yeah.
Which won last year's Whiskey Madness and was one of the best bottles we've ever tasted.
Delicious. And to be honest, we were skeptical when we were tasting it for the first time. We were like, is this worth 200? Like, it can't possibly be worth 200.
Cannot be.
And then we're tasting it, it's like, oh shit. It really is.
I think it's very unique that Scott and I would say a $225 bottle is probably going to be worth it.
Yeah. And again, it's because we have tasted an expression that was just like this.
Yes.
Maybe if we hadn't tasted this, we'd be like $225. That's crazy.
But 10 whiskeys, all finished different.
Yeah, I know.
7 to 19 years?
4 to 19, yeah.
Right. So those of you that have a couple of extra dollars to rub together, go out and get this.
Absolutely.
Say it again so they know the name.
It is the Blue Note Special Reserve 2025 release.
I guarantee you this will be special.
All right. The next one we have is Booker's Barry's Batch Bourbon. This is the first release of the year, named in honor of Barry Barish, the Jim Beam...
Bye, Barry.
Bye, Barry Batch Bourbon. The Jim Beam chairman and CEO for over 40 years, who passed away just last year.
Wow. What a time period to be the CEO.
Seriously.
over the last 40 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
he ushered them through the doldrums of the 80s.
I mean, there was no Knob Creek.
Right.
There was no Basil Hayden.
Correct.
There was no Bookers or Bakers. And now, as you pass away, Jim Beam is in a complete different level.
Yeah. They definitely credit him with helping the company ride that storm and the success that they had after that.
Amazing.
Yeah. Barry's batch is made up of barrels from 4 production dates that matured in 5 different warehouses. It's 125.7 proof. It's aged 7 years, 2 months, 4 days. 77% corn, 13% rye, 10% malted barley. Vanilla, nutty grain, caramel, dried fig, tobacco, dark roast espresso, and black pepper spice, 100.
They have kept their price the same for 3 years.
Exactly. This is what I was
And
talking about.
I will go out and buy this for Barry because Barry deserves it. And we will do a quick taste of it. We haven't done a quick taste of a Booker's in a long time.
You know we haven't.
I'm calling it.
Okay.
I'm going to go buy it and we're going to do it.
There you go. You heard it here, folks.
You heard it, unless I can't find it, but I'm going out to look for it this week.
All right. So this is exciting.
Okay.
Bulleit.
Yes.
Bottled in bond bourbon.
Oh, wow. Their own shit, finally.
Yes.
Okay.
Bulleit Frontier Whiskey has revealed its first bottled in bond bourbon that was distilled, matured, and blended at Bulleit Distilling Company in Shelbyville, Kentucky, under the direction of lead whiskey blender Delisha James. It's 100 proof, 7 years aged, 68% corn, 28% rye, 4% malted barley. Warm and spicy with notes of maple, nutmeg, dark fruit, toasted barrel, sweet cream, and butterscotch. $55.
And Scott will be buying that, and we'll be doing a quick taste on that.
All right, let's
And
do
Scott's
it.
buying that one. Typically, I'm buying the $100 bottle. See how that works out?
This is why I do all the editing.
Scott's buying $44 in food that night.
All right, that's fair.
He's buying like 45 Tasty Cake Crimpets.
Oh my God.
Philly reference.
Yeah, Philly. Okay, the next one we have, Jack Daniels has put out a higher age expression.
Wow.
A 14-year-old Tennessee whiskey.
Maybe Doug has it.
Doug probably has it.
We have the 12-year and the 10-year.
That's right. So when Jack
At
Daniels,
Doug's house, by the way.
yeah, when Jack Daniel introduced its 10-year expression in 2021, it was the distillery's first whiskey to bear an age statement in more than a century. That was followed by the 12-year in 2023, and now 2 years later, we have the 14-year, created with the same production methods as the core Old Number 7. 126.3 proof, 14 years age, of course. It's 80% corn, 12% rye, 8% malted barley, cinnamon, butterscotch, leather, oak, and pipe tobacco, 150. Right?
Would you love it at 125?
I would love it at 125. 150.
But I can't scream at it for 150 though.
No, I don't hate it at 150, but I'm not
126 proof?
buying it at 150.
No.
But Doug will.
But Doug will, and we'll go to Doug's house.
Stay tuned for Doug's Vault 2 with a 14-year Jack Daniels, because I'm sure he'll have it.
I'm going to text Doug right now and see if he has
See if he
it.
has it? Okay. The next one we have, Ed, it's your favorite named company.
Ooh.
Old Elk.
Old Elk.
Old Elk Slow Cut Blended Straight Bourbon. The Fort Collins, Colorado Old Elk Distillery is phasing out its flagship high malt bourbon, which debuted in just 2017, in favor of that original high malt bourbon, but blended with others in their inventory. It's a chance for Old Elk to spotlight its signature proofing technique called the slow cut proofing process, in which they spend weeks adding small increments of water to the distillate to keep the whiskey cool and better save the flavors produced during mashing, fermentation, distillation, and maturation, instead of dumping a whole bunch of water at one time, which is what most places do. It's only 88 proof, it's 4 years aged, 51% corn, 15% rye, 34% malted barley. Cinnamon spice, brown sugar, cocoa, maple syrup, and chocolatey caramels, $40.
$40. Their bottles empty aren't worth $40. Everything they have is $90. What are you talking about?
I know. This is their flagship bourbon that they're replacing with this new.
Well, I mean, we'll try that for them.
Sure. Oh, another.
Another quick taste. We'll do them all the same day. It'll be the trio of quick taste.
I know. These are good whiskeys that we have this time.
Yeah.
It's 4 more. Another bottle and bond, Ed. Old Forester 117 bottled and bond rye.
Right, because they have one already.
They have a bourbon already.
Right.
So founded in 1870, Old Forester is a bourbon distiller first and foremost. In fact, it didn't release its first rye until 150 years later in 2019, using an old recipe from a now defunct rye brand called Normandy Rye that it had acquired in 1940. Over the years, the Old Forester rye portfolio has seen the additions of cask strength and single barrel versions, but the distillery had never tried its hand at a bottled and bond rye version.
Interesting.
Until now. 100 proof, 10 years aged.
Ooh.
Yeah. 65% rye, 15% corn, 20% malted barley.
Wow.
Intense spice, charred oak, cracked pepper, and cooked pears. MSRP is $65 for a half bottle.
All right. So because I was going to say their 10-year bourbon is $125.
Right. So $130 for a full bottle.
All right.
Interesting, right?
Interesting. I would try this. I wish every bottle that was expensive offered us a half bottle for
Yeah.
half the price.
Yeah.
Well, like we might do a half bottle, just try it, because we're not committing to the whole thing.
Or the Jack Daniels 14-year-old. If there was a 375 or with them,
Yeah.
it would be 350. But
Right.
I'd buy that for $75.
Yeah. We would do that for an episode because we're about the art.
So, Remus.
Love Remus.
Yeah, Master Distiller Experiment Series Bourbon Batch 1. Luxco's Remus Bourbon label, which is distilled at Ross and Squibb in Indiana, a.k.a.
MGP.
has announced the launch of a new lineup dubbed the Master Distiller Experimental Series. The collection will center on experiments carried out by Master Distiller Ian Sturzman, showcasing different grains, mash bills, and maturation methods. This time, the spotlight is on maturation, and Batch 1 was aged in lightly charred and heavily toasted barrels from Seguin Moreau, a cooperage based in Napa Valley, California.
Our third favorite state.
It's 107 proof. It's 9 years aged. The mash bill is not disclosed. Cedar, port wine, fig, oak, toasted marshmallow, chocolate, candied pecans, black walnuts, and leather. MSRP 80.
Okay. Yeah.
We're on that. Say 80.
Absolutely.
Not 120.
No.
9 years.
MGP is a juggernaut.
107 proof.
It's a juggernaut. They probably source half the whiskeys you like, and they own some of the other ones you like.
Right.
They own Remus. They own...
We're on all of Lux Row now.
They own Lux Row. They own Penelope. They own Rossville Union. Mm-hmm. And they're gradually participating in their own vertical integration.
And any other bottle that you find on the shelf that says distilled in Indiana.
It's probably them.
It's probably them. The next one we have is, I just did this for the name, Sexual Chocolate.
Oh.
Stout Cast Finished American Single Malt. Back in February, in celebration of Valentine's Day, Virginia Distillery Company, or VDC, unveiled a new Stout Cast Finished American Single Malt. This one was first aged in bourbon barrels before being finished in barrels that previously held Sexual Chocolate, a Russian imperial stout from Foothills Brewing. It's 100 proof. It's 5 years in the bourbon barrels, 5 months in the Sexual Chocolate imperial stout. It's 100% malted barley, rich cocoa, espresso, toffee, dark fruit, malted chocolate, and molasses. MSRP 50.
I would try that for $50.
Sure, finished in the stout barrels. That sounds
Absolutely.
delicious.
Let's try to find that.
Yeah, we'll try to find that.
Write that down.
Yeah.
Where's our interns? Interns!
Philip!
Edward!
Did you get a new one?
I fired.
You fired, can't remember his name now.
Yeah, that's
He hasn't been around in a while.
That's why.
Yeah.
You didn't notice. I'm Ed, so I have to call him Edward so he knows to come to his name.
Oh my God.
And where is he?
He's not here.
He's getting garlic knots.
Garlic knots. So obscure.
They're right across the street at Sal's. Just go get
Sal's, yeah, Sal's. So I can see it from my apartment.
Yep.
All right, the last whiskey that you
Yes.
can buy this month.
Yes.
Which is actually not the last whiskey because we don't do all the whiskeys because there's 20 more.
it. Right, but these are the we're highlighting.
Yes. So Yellowstone, 6-year, small batch, bourbon.
Ironically, has nothing to do with the show.
No, it doesn't.
That's what's weird about
But
it.
people do connect them.
They do.
Yeah. So Yellowstone, the whiskey brand made by Limestone Branch Distillery in Lebanon, Kentucky, has added a new expression to its core lineup, and it's the first Yellowstone bourbon to carry a formal age statement.
And Marty and Rachel just went to a Yellowstone tasting on Thursday.
They did. I wonder if they've had this. It's 107 proof, 6 years aged. The mash is not disclosed. Caramel, oak, vanilla with hints of chocolate, honey, and cherry. $45.
I've had a lot of good Yellowstones. I've tried not to like them for some reason. I don't know why.
Right, just because the show, you maybe don't like the show.
South Jersey Bourbons had one about 3 years ago that was just fire. It was like a cast strength Yellowstone. Remember Sergio had it at his house?
Yeah.
It was delicious.
That was so freaking good.
It was so good. And I've kind of been chasing that ever since. And the rest have been good, but never as good as that one.
Yeah. I think that was even before the show started.
No, yeah. That was just, it was. It was just a South Jersey Bourbon drinker's barrel pick.
Right. Did Doug text you back?
He said, I'll check.
All right, so what's coming up on the podcast?
Lots of stuff.
In the next 6-7 weeks.
We're going to be drinking whiskey, I bet.
Yes, we will. So next week is April 18th. We're going to do episode 82. That's the Lost Lantern Spring Collection. It's 5 finished whiskeys.
Right. They're a company that goes out to other distilleries and finds great whiskeys and then focuses on them.
Yeah. Like we featured them
Highlights
before, but because everything changes with them, it's a whole new set of whiskeys.
Yes.
A week after that is the 25th of April. We're going to do no podcast. This is our first break from weekly releases since the end of January, so we need a break.
Right. We're just going to like picnic and masturbate. Not at the same time. Like,
not together.
Not together.
Okay.
At our own. Yeah, I got a citation last time at the park.
Jesus Christ. All right, so in May, the 2nd, we'll do a Whiskey Short, our review of Blind Barrel tasting kits.
Yes, we will.
We'll do a review of those. On the 9th, the week after that, is episode 83. We don't really know exactly what we're doing.
We have a lot in the mix. It's a surprise.
Yeah. Well, if you listen to our last call episode, we have a bunch of stuff that we're thinking about. Right. The 16th of May, we're doing a bonus short. That's our Whiskey Madness Infinity bottle.
Yes.
We put every single, except one, because Scott's an alcoholic, into an Infinity bottle of the 18. We have 17 of the 18.
We don't have the Russell 6 here, but if we really wanted this $45 bottle, it still could happen. Because Scott needs a bottle to drink anyway.
Well, that's true. I'm running out. And on the 23rd, we'll be right back here doing the Whiskey News for May.
Right. So, Scott, thanks so much for collecting everything. Thank you, everybody who turned in for the Whiskey Madness and the last call. Once again, there's great whiskeys out there to go and find, whether you're in a $45 price range or a $225 price range and everything in between. So, for the Whiskey Tangent Podcast, I'm Ed.
I'm Scott.
Cheers, everybody.
Later.